everybody, and welcome back to a new episode where we Lunskut. We play our game in our own changed setting and universe of Waterdeep, now called Waterdale, with new elements of the Industrial Revolution. Of course, our key feature remains a long-lost treasure. Last episode, our group finally left the house behind for a sea voyage. They upgraded their weapons and got them back from the smithy, Derek. Then they headed through Squalor's End, witnessing a rebellious speech. Either way, they made their way to the docks. Running from Clarice, they are now out on the wild surface of the sea. But without further ado, let's all scoot into the paths of a new adventure. It is a brand new day, a day full of opportunities and time to sit back. After all, it would take the entirety of the day to travel to Caspian's designated spot. Why and how he chose their next destination remained shrouded in mystery, much to the characters' frustration. But either way, they were gone from Waterdale. Safe as they could be. The pirate crew was already awake, most of them seasoned sailors who rise with the sun. You can hear the sound of boots thudding on the weathered deck as pirates move about, preparing for the day's tasks. Low, grumbling voices speak in various dialects and accents. To wake our group, loud knocks were shaking the room's doors to stir them up from a heavy night's sleep. This isn't the usual morning for our group, the Skillbent Sigil, consisting of Arthur and of Fletch and Edmund. Roughly woken from their slumber, the two of them pondered how to go about their day. Fletch turned in his bed, before half-heartedly getting up from the soft mattress to swing his little legs over the side of the bed, dangling off the edge. Fletch got dressed in his usual attire and joined the dining area for breakfast. Edmund, on the other hand, tossed and turned in his bed. He struggled to find motivation to leave the warmth of his pillows and blankets, but most of all, struggled to find the courage he needed to face Gemaya. Nightmares had worsened since seeing her, and especially now, knowing she was in the same confined space as him. So, once more, he rolled to his side, ignoring the call for breakfast, and decided to wait until most would have left already, hopefully including Gemaya. The smell of cooking wafts through the air, faint but noticeable, likely a meager breakfast of hardtack, salted meat, and possibly some stale ale, served by a grumpy, one-eyed cook leaning over a large pot. On deck, some pirates sharpened their weapons, rusty cutlasses, flintlock pistols, and daggers, while others check and stow crates, perhaps containing cargo or stolen treasures. Fletch stepped cautiously into the cramped kitchen, his expectations low, ready to find some grimy cook dishing out barely edible slop. But instead, the warm scent of something surprisingly inviting hit him, and he blinked in mild disbelief. There, standing by the counter, was Gemaya, who had maintained an air of mystery since they boarded. Her posture was calm, her movements deliberate as she handed out bowls of food to the last few crew members lingering at the table. She barely acknowledged Fletch as he entered, sending him only a casual, almost dismissive glance before returning to her work, filling the stew into yet another bowl. Fletch's eyes dropped to the food, and his surprise grew. Instead of the half-rotten slop he'd prepared himself for, he saw a hearty stew, rich and shimmering in the morning light. Vegetables floated lazily in the broth, a healthy mix of greens alongside chunks of potatoes and bits of meat that looked tender enough to fall apart at the slightest touch. There was a savory aroma rising from it, not the rancid stench of spoiled goods he had feared. A small hiss of steam escaped one of the bowls as Gemaya placed it down for the next crew member, and without looking up, she spoke, her voice as cool and detached as her demeanor.
Best eat it before the wind takes a turn and it gets cold. Food like this doesn't last long out here.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, we do care to eat healthy, you know. For lunch, we have sandwiches and orange juice against scurvy. Make sure to be there, and bring Edmund with you.
The quiet command in her tone left little room for argument. Fletch hesitated, then moved closer, his stomach reminding him that whatever tension lingered on this ship, it wouldn't be solved on an empty belly. He took a seat at the rough wooden table, where the rest of the crew seemed to focus solely on their meals, eating with an efficiency born from years of life at sea. It seemed that Gamaya had an eye for keeping the crew fed well enough to work without complaint. It was a subtle power, controlling the one thing pirates treasured as much as gold: food. He made sure to check the food for poison just in case. Once confirmed that the food was safe for consumption, Fletch grabbed the silver shimmering spoon. With a spoonful of stew raised to his mouth, Fletch allowed himself a small sense of relief. Maybe the first morning on board wouldn't be quite as bad as he had thought. Still, the look Gamaya had given him, cold and uninterested, stayed in his mind. After a while, the busyness of the breakfast crowd began to quiet as the last of the pirates finished their meals and made their way back on deck or to their duties. The clatter of spoons against bowls slowly faded, leaving the dining area much emptier, and with it, the tension in the air seemed to ease as well. Gamaya was the last of the senior crew to leave, slipping away without a word, though her presence still lingered in Fletch's mind. Fletch had stayed behind, leaning back in his chair, but his eyes occasionally flickered to the door as if waiting for something, or someone. Sure enough, after a few minutes of near silence, the door creaked open again, and Edmund stepped in, glancing around. He had clearly waited until the crowd had thinned, wanting to avoid the crew's lingering gazes, or perhaps just the looming presence of Gamaya. Fletch greeted him with a smile and raised a hand. He motioned to a bowl of the shimmering stew sitting untouched on the table in front of him. Edmund's usual expression softened slightly as he slid into the seat opposite of Fletch, reaching for the bowl. Though his posture was still tense, whether from the general atmosphere of the pirate ship or the uneasy feeling of being in an unfamiliar territory, was hard to tell.
Figured you'd showed up sooner or later. Saved you some.
Thanks. Any clue where we're headed?
Nope.
For a moment, the only sound was the quiet clinking of the spoon as Edmund stirred the stew thoughtfully. Then he leaned forward, his casual tone betraying a hint of curiosity.
So, how are you finding our new friends, eh? Quite a welcoming bunch, aren't they?
I've had warmer welcomes. I'll say that much, but I suppose it could be worse. No one's tried to gut us yet.
Edmund huffed a quiet laugh, though it held little humor. They both fell into a brief silence, the soft roll of the ship beneath them punctuating their thoughts. Outside, the murmur of the crew and the creaking of the ship echoed faintly, but in the small dining area, the space felt quiet, calm, one of the few moments of calm they might get. It wasn't long until shouting was heard, however. The sound of bells echoed through the vast ocean, and especially Caspian's voice can be heard in the distance.
I was hoping this would happen.
Interested in what was transpiring on deck, Edmund and Fletch let their curiosity get the better of them. They storm out of the dining area onto the deck of the ship to greet an over-enthusiastic Caspian.
Alright. I was hoping you'd come. Jameson Jones. Our trade partner.
What's happening?
It's basically Jameson Jones is our trade partner. We buy guns, swords.
A merchant.
Yeah, basically, but he's a pirate merchant, so he kind of like goes around, collects everything from ships. So yeah, but he's a great guy. Who wants to come along to JJ? He has a lot of stuff.
I mean, if he has things for sale, I mean, sure.
And Gamaya. Fuck you, man.
Get out of my head!
The voices. But anyway, if I don't mind coming in, is it alright if I come along to JJ and like just be like the stuff?
I'll give a little nod.
Alright.
Stardust, but she's not fucking ripping my head off now.
There was a ship, slightly smaller than Caspian's and covered in crimson paint with a treasure chest as well as a bone cross behind it on the Jolly Roger. Caspian rushes to the railing of the ship to look down at his friend. The ship looks as if it's covered with items upon items. There's trinkets and barrels hanging as decoration, large paintings, item frames full of taxidermied animals, and much more. It seems as though it's a bit of a hoarder's habitat. There's something for everyone. Now, there are a few sections of this ship worth exploring. Treasure maps, maps leading to buried treasures or hidden dungeons. Rum and rations, food, water, and barrels of rum for long journeys. Weapons and ammunition, swords, cutlasses, pistols, cannonballs, and musket shots. Trinkets and loot, stolen or salvaged jewelry, art, and magical items. Exotic pets, exotic creatures like small drakes or owlbears for sale. Cursed items, mysterious potentially cursed relics. Tattoo services, pirate-themed tattoos to mark one's allegiance. Spells and scrolls, magical scrolls, potions, or spellcasting services. Dungeon supplies, rope, torches, grappling hooks, and other exploration gear. Only a few are of interest for us today, considering only a few options were investigated by our characters. Trinkets and loot, exotic pets, as well as cursed items are the categories inspected today. For starters, Edmund sought out JJ's help for cigars, considering his stash was, almost empty. For this reason, we end up firstly at the trinkets and loot section of the ship. Although while Edmund was shopping for new cigars, someone else too was buying an object. Locket of Undying Love was held in two firm hands. Purple hands, hands belonging to a devil. This ornate locket contains a small compartment that holds a miniature painting of a loved one. While wearing it, the bearer gains advantage on saving throws against charm effects. Edmund, in turn, got the Coin of Greed, a gold coin that, when touched, compels the holder to hoard and covet wealth. It can be used as a form of cursed currency or to manipulate others into making bad decisions due to their greed. And then there is one more item, the Davy Jones key, a mysterious key that can unlock any magical door or chest regardless of complexity, by simply pointing it at the target and turning. It looks very worn, but could maybe be used for one more lock.
What's your question, mate? It's 150. It's my father's key, better be careful with that.
Are you asking me for a favor? Go ahead. Yeah, I do not personally care. So what's the words you wanna say to me? Yeah, sure.
Coming back from their trinket buying spree, Averai practically drags the others over a group to the exotic pet section. A section Fletch didn't quite care for, carrying Jinx with him already, although not a pet. And Edmund, on the other hand, tried to avoid it altogether. Edmund had a soft spot for animals, and he wasn't sure he'd set foot inside of this place without buying a little companion. He, in the end, was correct.
I cannot take care of animals right now without traveling with the kitten.
Okay, we're looking at the kitten.
I'm looking at the kitten.
Feline fowls are very easy to take care of.
I mean, it's big owl. As long as it does need go after.
No. Well, that's the feline fowl.
It is 1500.
No, what is the?
What does it eat?
Yeah.
Should I say?
Okay, yeah.
No.
Okay.
It eats small pieces of meat, like chicken.
Meisje.
Well, very small ones.
Okay.
You're too big. It might be scared of you, actually.
So anxious.
Why does Fletch hate cats?
You got the little feline.
Little baby.
Edmund short-circuited as soon as the party turned to him asking for names. After all, he hasn't given the little boy a name yet. Cradling the creature in his arms, Edmund stepped out of the room, closely followed by Fletch and, No, that's it. They are greeted by Caspian and Gamaya, who stood a little away from this section of the boat.
That's wholesome. I can see Kamai also give like very what do you call it? A very wholehearted smile. It's like, oh, that's cute.
Why is it just sort of more terrifying than Gamaya?
I know.
Hey,
I can take it away.
no, she never.
Oh, it's something he cares about.
No.
Fletch has his mind fixated on the cursed relic section, despite his gut feeling telling him no.
Is it dangerous to go in?
No. It's scary stuff, that's true.
But that's not 100% certainty.
He decided to go in, leaving Edmund behind to pet his cat in order to ease his nerves. With frightened, cautious steps, Fletch went in, his heart thudding in his chest. As always, he played it off coolly, but the paranoia in his mind grew. What would he find here exactly? A room full of nauseating items. A compass that always points towards the nearest graveyard. While it can locate buried treasure, it also attracts restless spirits and hauntings to the bearer. A ring that grants the ability to move through shadows and become invisible. However, it also attracts the attention of shadowy creatures from the plane of shadow, who might attempt to pull the wearer into their realm. A hauntingly beautiful harp that plays eerie tunes on its own, attracting ghosts and spirits wherever it's heard. It's nearly impossible to stop playing once it's started. Just a small fraction of the items on display, but not the one to strike fear in little Fletch's heart. No, that privilege is someone else's. Mirror of Reflection. This ornate mirror reflects the viewer as a twisted, monstrous version of themselves. The version they most fear of themselves. Prolonged use can erode the user's sense of self-worth and identity. This item is what captures Fletch's attention and grates his courage. It squeezes his confidence until suffocated.
Kai, if you walk around there, can't you just literally look into the mirror of reflection?
Yep.
Oh. What the fuck would I see?
Yeah, I wanna know.
What would Fletch see?
Wait, what?
Reflecting your worst self. Fletch felt a shiver crawl up his spine as his eyes scanned the strange assortment of objects. Old compasses that spun wildly without cause, ancient maps drawn in cryptic languages, and glass vials filled with something dark and viscous that pulsed faintly in the dim light. The room was deadly silent, save for the creaking of the ship and the faint, distant whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. But nothing appeared immediately threatening. Fletch smirked to himself. A room full of junk, he thought, trying to shake off the lingering sense of unease. He made his way deeper, brushing past strange artifacts, his eyes flitting from one eerie object to the next. But then he spotted it, an ornate mirror displayed in the center of the room. Its frame was dark and twisted. Against his better judgment, Fletch found himself drawn toward it, as if an invisible thread was being pulled. At first, the mirror was nothing out of the ordinary. It showed his reflection, his familiar rugged face, the scar that ran down his eye, the same disheveled fur. But something was wrong. The longer he stared, the more he realized the image in the glass was off. His reflection wasn't just mimicking his movements, it was slower, more deliberate, as if it was watching him closely, waiting for him to notice. Fletch's smirk faltered as he leaned in closer, his eyes narrowing, and then he saw it. His reflection, his true reflection. His face was the same, but his eyes were hollow, blank, completely devoid of emotion, like a doll's eyes, lifeless and cold. And his hands were slick with fresh blood dripping from his fingers as if he had just finished some unspeakable act. Fletch swallowed hard, his breath catching in his throat. He could feel his heartbeat quicken as a cold dread crawled over him. This wasn't just some twisted trick of the mirror. It was showing him something darker, something he feared deep down, the man he could become. A man who killed without feeling, who had lost every shred of humanity. He couldn't look away. Finally, with a surge of willpower, Fletch tore himself away from the mirror, stumbling backwards and running on his feet. But even as he turned to flee, he felt the weight of that reflection on him. The mirror still stared. Fletch bolted for the door, his footsteps loud and frantic in the silent room. But even as he ran back to the safety of his group, he knew somehow, somewhere, the mirror was still watching him, its reflection waiting for the next time he let his guard down. That twisted version of himself, lifeless and cold, would always be there, lurking just beneath the surface. And he wasn't sure if he could ever outrun it.
Dat is mirror Mentis. If you want to know, you can go in yourself.
No, I'm not going in there. I wouldn't say that.
You need me to hold your hand, mate?
Hmm?
You need me to hold your hand?
No.
Alright, come back
How
here.
can you live with a mirror like that?
I almost never go in.
You just see the darkest part of yourself you're scared of.
In the mirror.
Reflected. And they will follow you in. That's thing you go in.
Yeah, you know what's weird? I asked Maya if what she saw. She was like, "What are you talking about? It's in the mirror."
You didn't see anything?
She saw her. She just saw herself.
Oh.
So she was just like, "I don't know what you're talking about. It's just a mirror." Well, yeah, it's staring at me creepily, but it's a mirror.
Leaving the oddity that was Jamerson Jones behind, the group retreated to their new temporary safe haven. Everyone made it back to the deck, passing by the pirate crew as they walked the plank from one ship back to the other. However, as Fletch passed Hera, he heard the sound of a small sniff.
Who here has a piece of obsidian? I can smell it.
Well, I smell it from you.
The small piece of obsidian was handed over to Hera, who inspected it thoroughly with curious eyes.
This is no ordinary piece of obsidian.
What have they been carrying around?
You have been carrying, an elemental egg. This piece is a fire elemental hatchling. What? Yes. But it can only be unlocked by a dragon's breath. And, well, I'm a dragonborn.
This is the hot stuff.
Only one way to find out.
Oh no.
Hold on.
No, they're not hostile usually.
Listen.
When it imprints on someone, it's not hostile towards that person. But as long as everyone else is friendly, it will also.
What does it conceive as friendly?
Shut up.
I can only start the hatching process.
How long will it take?
A minute. It's been brewing very long. It's pretty hot.
Are we sure we... It's elemental,
little
it's
fire
a fire...
It basically is a creature that only exists out of fire.
So...
I'll have to take care of another reshaping.
We're on a
Is that an
wooden
option?
ship.
It
It's
doesn't
made of
burn the
fire.
people that touch it. It's basically an elemental is magic and can't
But
start a
it's-
big fire
But
on
it's
the
young.
ship.
It is indeed young. Does it have control and stuff?
From a very young age, you know how to control everything.
Sure. Then.
Of course.
Hera's throat pulses slightly, and it starts to glow a red, orangey, lava-like color. And she breathes a small portion of fire onto the obsidian. Slowly, the obsidian begins to crack, and she hands it back to Fletch before it can hatch and imprint on her. The stone does not burn your hands, it merely feels very warm and welcoming. As the obsidian hatches, a small head pops out, and then a small body. The whole creature is made of flames and small chirpy growls. A flame drake hatched from the obsidian. It stretches itself after having been in the obsidian for so long. Fire drakes are small, mischievous, playful, and protective.
Okay.
So, what are you going to name it?
I'll be naming it Fenris. Fenris.
Like Fenrir, the Hellhound.
Okay.
I like that. Now that there's a baby, congratulations on becoming a father.
I mean, chickens.
Fair.
I mean, now you're a father of two.
Once settled in and back at the ship, Edmund sat down in the lounge area to ponder over a name for his new feline fowl. Hino. He had chosen to call him Hino, after a beloved childhood pet. The lounge area started to fill with more and more faces. Fletch, Averai, Arthur, Gamaya, Caspian, Hera, and Tori. More and more people started swarming the area, looking for fun and conversation. Or perhaps an announcement.
I have kept most of you in the shadows, but at early light we will reach Coral's Point, a small fishing village. Here, I believe, lies our next clue. We have gotten intel on the ringleader of a circus, a vague figure who seems to change name, appearance, and gender based on whoever you ask for information. This man is believed to hold the key to our next mission, to a new step in the right direction. We have located his next show, in order to question him. Whoever interrogates him leaves empty-handed, but we will perform better. A week of festivals is held at the village, on which the circus will put down their tent. We can finally corner and unmask this ringleader. That is all. However, enjoy your nights, lads and lasses.
Finally, a step closer to the actual mission. What a day, right? So many new pets in the house as well as new equipment. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you for listening to our episode of Ludenscoot, with many more to follow. Next episode, we will be getting closer to a key lead in our search for the mysterious Waterdale treasure. But for now, we've bothered you enough. Bye-bye. Laters.
Adios.